Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Magic is Real podcast. I am your host, Shannon Torrance. This is the podcast where we talk about spiritual awakenings, near death experiences, spiritual healing, all things metaphysical and spiritual. If you like this podcast, would you do me a favor and make sure to engage in the comments if you're on YouTube, if you're listening to it, or if you're listening in the audio version, if you leave a comment or a review, that helps so very much, and I appreciate your time. Today, I'm very enthusiastically introducing to you Tom Matt. Tom had his own advertising agency, has a family, and I'm going to let him tell the story. But after a psychotic episode, he acquired an ability that he calls Upsight Vision, which is where he can see and interact with holographic images that, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, these things are always there. It's just that through our human lens or Umwelt, as you mentioned, we typically can't see just because we're limited by the senses that we have. And so I am
That's good.
fascinated by this topic and I want to hear all about it, how you came to this, and really excited to delve into what spirituality has to do with mental illness or the correlation, the potential correlation between the two. So thank you so much for being here, Tom. I welcome you. I wanted to say with open arms. I've listened to you a lot and I'm really happy to have you
No,
here.
this is good. Thank you so much. Okay, let's there's so many places we could start. You gave me a lot of openings, but let's
Yeah.
start at the definition of what vision is. And you said it, it's the ability to see and interact with holographic images that seem to be everywhere around me, around us. Not only can I see them, I can interact with them once I notice it's there, I can interact with it and exchange it with the thought. Now, what's interesting about this, if you and I are talking now, if we were talking about something specific about like making a pizza, you would think that looking over there, maybe it would be something related to making a pizza. It could be, but it could just as easily be something like an elephant riding a bicycle. I use that a lot. Now, once I see the elephant riding a bicycle, if it's not what we're talking about, I can then engage with it and say, get off the bike and start cooking a pizza. So there is an intelligence in this field, plasma field, biofield, Akashic records, whatever it is, that once I engage with it, there's an exchange of information. This year I've realized, and I've done this for 13 years, right? For 12 years, I've done it just by myself and kind of seen it in other people. This year, I've turned it into a business where I read people's holographic field. Once given permission, I can see somebody's holographic field. Now, what's interesting about that is I don't, for those kind of things, I just see. Right? It's like I'm listening. If you give me permission, instead of saying listening to what you're thinking, I'm seeing what's radiating from you. It's not your, I can't read your mind. You can't think of an animal. I tell you what it is. It is not your deepest, darkest secrets. It's this middle ground. It's like a waking dream viewing or analysis. So I know that's a lot, but let me just keep going a little bit more, right? These things look like, if you've seen, most people have seen Iron Man, Tony Stark in his office, and he's submersed in holograms. It looks like that. They can be that clear and in focus. If not, people have seen the movie The Queen's Gambit, or not the movie, the miniseries on Netflix about 6 years ago.
One of the
The
best shows
protagonist,
I've ever seen.
what's that?
One of the best shows I've ever seen.
Absolutely. When I saw this, when I saw the protagonist laying on the bed, moving the chess pieces on the ceiling, I was like, that's literally what Upside is, because that's what I can do if I'm doing something by myself, like a mathematical project or something. When I saw that, I was like, unbelievable. And she's a chess master. So it helps her. It helps her, think. It makes her more intelligent in a certain way, certainly in a visual spatial way. So that's what it looks like. It's not a vivid mind's eye. It is not a graphic imagination or a good memory recall. This is external. Now, how do I know that? Because I went to the Institute of Noetic Science and we did we did randomized testing, 200 randomized testings back in 2023, and the academic paper is coming out this year, showing the difference of the brain states with the EEG brain states between memory recall and upside vision. So we know across alpha, beta, theta, gamma, all the brain states, there were differences in each one. And it was the difference was directly related to vision, cognitive ability, and spatial. So it was like, of course, I mean, I knew it. I was like, I know this is going to show something different because I know my eyes get tired from looking at these things. I know my pupils dilate and get around, if something is exciting or arousing, they'll dilate. I know I can follow what you would think if we were in the same room and we're looking at a blank wall, but I see a cheetah running across it. You can follow it. My eyes follow it, and you can't fake that. There's machines they have to make sure it's called smooth pursuit eye movement. So I knew all these things were going to happen externally. It was great validation, that they picked it up on the EEG machine. So let's see. So that's kind of what it is. Now, I did not always have this, right? I acquired this ability 13 years ago after coming through a really hard mental health crisis, addiction issues, psychotic break. I wrote a whole book about it called Jesus Goes to Hollywood: A Memoir of Madness. It was almost a year to the date when I actively walked out on my family and business and I got back together. It started with one event and it finished the book, and I finished at least part of the book where I see these images for the first time. Now, what's interesting is that intuitively, even though I was on Coke, is the last time I used Coke, so 13 years sober, yay for me. What's interesting is even though I was using the first time, I knew that even without the drugs, I'd be able to do this, right? So that was like a catalyst and I also knew that if I was on drugs doing this, no one would believe me. So there was and I also wanted to get my family back and get my life back. So in a really weird way, these visions, which they're not hallucinations, I want to be clear about that. You can make the case. Some people would say they are, but they're not. We can talk about that. That event sparked me to get sober because I wanted to prove that I could do this all the time, and I thought something was rewired in my brain, or at least that's what the clinicians did at the time. So again, that's a lot. We could talk about what I've done with it since then. We could talk about the mental health side of it because there was definitely a component. We could talk about the rewiring of the brain from drugs. And we could talk that it's probably not drugs. More likely it's trauma related. Yeah.
Yes.
So the reason I know that is people come forward with the same ability, and
Yep.
to a person, it's trauma. Some of these people have never done drugs. So kind of extraordinary what's happening. There, I'll stop because I know I can.
No, yeah, and I have so many questions that we can touch on just while it's in my head. I have known people close to me. I have read this in the memoirs of other mediums that people, for example, with PTSD tend to be the strongest mediums. So I have a friend with PTSD that is a stronger medium than I am, but she wasn't even a believer. And the reason is that when you develop PTSD, especially if it's early on, when your brain is forming. So if you're a child of abuse, you're hypervigilant all the time. So the part of your brain is your amygdala is growing around the trauma, which is also why people develop borderline personality disorder, PTSD, etc. And so the fear center gets bigger in the brain, therefore you're more hyper vigilant, so because you have to look out for danger. And this is also if things happen later in life, you learn to be hyper vigilant, therefore you're also picking up on the unseen world because you're becoming more highly sensitive. I'm a highly sensitive person. That means that I have the ability to connect with the other side because I've always been a watcher.
Yeah.
And that's not trauma. And I would love to hear what you have to say about that. But also, interestingly, I do believe and I want to delve into. I've had many friends end up in psychosis. Unfortunately, lost one of them, one of my best friends, to incident that happened during psychosis. And I do believe that that is the same thing, that there's people who are bipolar, for example, are highly creative, which is why I love them, which is why I have so many bipolar friends. They're the creators, the musicians, the actors, the painters. And because there's so much going on in the brain, the neurons are very highly sensitive and vibrating all the time. So it seemed, and a lot of them say that I'm hearing not just psychosis, but I'm actually also getting messages from quote unquote dead people. And I believe them because they're verifiable. So I know it's a big question. So I'll really just have you kind of, I think, riff on it, which is sometimes I wonder about schizophrenia. Like, are they actually seeing into another dimension or are they really hallucinating? And I'm kind of, I think it's both. But
Yeah.
I'd love to,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that it's both for sure.
So let me address that two ways. Let me address my mental health and my psychosis, and then we'll come to the schizophrenic
Yep.
question around the research, the brain states they measured, because they used the hallucinations around people with schizophrenia, and they how this is not that, even though some of the brain states are used, some of the brain states that were measured are the same ones. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so let's go back. So this started. I was 49. I had a lot of sober years, but I had a history of drug use. When I picked up again this time, something changed in my brain. I would have a thought, I would believe it's true, I would have an emotion around on it, and I would act on it. And it could be anything. I mean, it would be that ridiculous. My wife is sleeping with a policeman. My children are aliens. There's government satellites. It was just so unbelievable. In that moment, it wasn't unbelievable because I don't walk out on a family and a business if I don't truly believe those things are happening. Literally walk down on a successful business. Okay, again, drug fueled, make no mistake. Um, and I emptied my bank account. I spent all my money and I was flying around the world doing all these things. And this is wild, the moment of clarity, or the one of the first moments of clarity, because if you have a history of drug use, you need to save money to buy drugs. I'm on the beach in Santa Monica. I have no money left. And my brain was like, wait a minute. I can't plan ahead, but the executive function area is not working. This is not just addiction. There's something else wrong with me. So I checked myself into a treatment center in California. Actually, I can't remember. It's a big one out there. And that I was diagnosed with bipolar because at that time I was bipolar. My behavior was
Yeah.
wild. I dressed up in all these wild clothes. I thought all these fanciful things were going to happen to me. It was the first step in accepting something had changed in my brain as opposed to just addiction, which is not just addiction, but this was way more than that. Okay. By the end of the year, I'd stopped by, well, actually, by the time I picked up, this was the last time I used, but after that year, without putting the drugs in, my brain, the filter that had cracked and crumbled in my world that I thought was true, then I thought wasn't, I realized, no, without drugs, I'm not bipolar, right? Without the drugs, I have pretty stable, right? Especially if I can work out and use the gym and stuff. I don't need any kind of those drugs anymore. And I realized the filter that I had was not like other people, right? I'd always been highly sensitive, but I would never have called it that. I was not taught that, right? And because of this ability to see these things, I was on a mission to make sure that to find out what other research had done about people seeing these things. There's something called Charles Bonnet syndrome. People hallucinate and they because they're going blind, and the people with no drug use, like somebody gets macular degeneration, some people, and they start going blind and they start hallucinating. They go to the doctor and the doctor says, "You're not crazy," because they do think they are. This is called Charles Bonnet syndrome. Is a couple hundred years ago was discovered. You can either take these drugs and maybe they'll go away. And some people are like, hold on, okay, I'm not going crazy. No, this is pretty cool. I'm going to live with these things and I'm going to manage these hallucinations or what shows up. So people deal with these things and they live with it. You know, it's another type of vision. And my hypothesis about that is the brain is screaming, it's saying, hold on, you're going blind, but we can communicate. There's more ways to see than you could possibly imagine. But the doctors dismiss it because they don't know any better. Um, so where was I? Okay, my brain is doing this extraordinary thing, right? Now I knew I wanted to find answers. And importantly, because I got two MRIs, no brain tumor, because I thought it was going to be a tumor, right? If you do something like this, we've seen enough movies, you have an extraordinary ability, there's going to be some curse. No lesions, no stroke, no damage from drug use, nothing. My brain is fine, which is wild to me. So they said something must have been rewired from the drug use. And I accepted that for a while, but I still wanted answered to see if there was any other data or academic research on this. Nothing. This is new. As far as I could tell, it's new. So I finally hooked up with Dean Radin at the Institute of Noetic Sciences in 2023, and they measured my brain states. So I don't even know if I answered your question because I know I talked about a lot of different things there. The
You did.
psychosis part. Oh, I'll tell you, that's it. About the academic paper that comes out now. They talk about the some of the brain areas of that are lighting up when are the same areas in Charles Bonnet syndrome and schizophrenia. The difference, and they write about this in the paper, is that I don't think they're real, air quotes. I know this is some external manifestation and it's there, and I'm trying to study it as opposed to, oh my gosh, there's an alien and I'm trying to run from it. So that's the big, big difference. And it is a difference. And the other thing is changing it. The other thing is the engagement, right? The interaction with this intelligence. That was a piece they hadn't seen before, too. So so there's a lot there, and it can make sense that people that are labeled schizophrenic may have this ability that's not, it's an untapped hidden potential that people don't know how to deal with. So they give people drugs and it masks it and it just changes their life. If I had this when I was 20, that would have been my path. The fact that I was 49 years old and I knew how to navigate the world and I was a successful human being means I knew there was not something different. Like, that's the umwelt word you talked about, right? The umwelt is the way a biological organism navigates the planet or Earth, the environment. I navigated it one way, right? And now I navigate it another place. Mammals, bats, fish, worms, we all occupy the same space. We all are here on planet Earth. The way they move through their biological life is different than us. Worms, what? They feel stuff. I don't know, maybe vibrations. Now, and I had five senses, whatever, six sense, whatever this is an additional ability that I have acquired, and it is nothing short of extraordinary. And people are coming forward saying they have it too. That's the fun part. We can talk about that.
Yes, and I know I've heard you say that you think we all have this capability, just like I'm a medium and I believe I feel like I want to say I know we all have this capability. It's just a matter of, do you believe in it? Are you interested in it? And and if you're interested enough to study it, if it hasn't already come to you. So
Yeah,
like you said, a cat, for example, it is said that cats can see spirits and dogs. Well, they also have different vision than we do. So they aren't picking up light and colors the way that we are. So they may be able to see a different way. This also brings me to questions about psychedelics. I have done psychedelics, and when I first did them in college, I was not a spiritual person, but I remember did, I was hallucinating, but I knew that I was hallucinating. So I didn't think it was real. But I looked at a Bob Marley poster, the one where he's surrounded with all these tigers and he's got his microphone, and the poster came to life. And I'm watching it and I'm watching Bob Marley sing. Like literally his mouth is moving. And the tigers are walking. And I'm thinking, okay, my brain could not, how could my brain? I'm looking at it as if it is real as real can be. And I've taken mushrooms where I know that that's literally not happening. I now believe that there's sort of, I used to think it was a hallucination. Now I believe that psychedelics open up sort of
sure.
the veil so that it our reality can be anything we want it to be, as the observed particle in quantum theory, that someone else might see snakes. When I look at the root of a tree, I was thinking, this was like last year in Arizona. I was like, now I see roots turning into snakes. I'm not scared. I know, but they could also be something, somebody else might see it somewhere. I felt that consciousness was helping to organize the atomic particles in a way that we sort of create the visions that we're seeing. And I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly, but I'd love to know. We're going to get into also more about what this ability enables you to do, what it means, and who it is or what it is you're interacting with. That's my next. But I wanted to just know if you have anything to say about psychedelics.
So yeah, that's good. And I think like I used to say this is like a muscle, right? People like us, it's a muscle and you use it and it gets stronger. I think that's still true because I think you need to, there's a physical element to it. But now I'm leaning towards it's like an antenna or frequency we tune into, and psychedelics help open up. If you say open up the veil or tune into it, either language, because the thing is, we're seeing something else, whether you're tuned into it or opened up. I don't know, but it feels like there's a quantum element. Now, I'll tell you what I want to do as an experiment. So you think that would we if I think we can do an experiment like this. Five people get in a room, they all do psychedelics, and I am the sober control or the not using control, right? So if I can project an upside vision in front of them, if everybody sees it, now it is an objective experience. Okay.
Mm,
Now, and then the other thing when people are on psychedelics, the message is so the message, and then if I send some kind of message, and I don't know how to do that because I'm other than a thought, and I don't know, it's not the same thing. But in any case, even if it was a visual thing, so that's huge in itself. Now, if they can't do it, maybe what if I take the psychedelic too, and then we are all tuned in, then I can do it. That's another experiment. Um,
mhm.
and let's say I don't project anything, but I'm just there, and they're on psychedelics and some machine elves, the machine elves that everyone talks about showing up. If I can see it without it and they see it with it, it means we're tuning into the same thing. And then maybe I need to be on psychedelics to see it. But the point is, I'm getting at there may be an objective reality. A lot of people don't think that's the case. And I'm not sure. I think there it could be, but here's what I do know. The space, there is a sacred geometry. There is a structural element to this that I can tap into. And I've heard other people talk about their psychedelic trips, and it sounds very much like that. Um, so yeah, I think the psychedelics, that is one path that we could learn a lot of research if somebody, if we decide to. Again, like I said, this is so new. We can
Yeah,
answer some questions. And that's where, listen, everyone talks about AI and the intelligence. Listen, that's so small. I mean, it's so amazing. I'm not mocking it at all or knocking it. AI is great. Everything the human brain is put in the computer, it gets uploaded and then it's regurgitated back to us in AI. We see 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum. The stuff that's in there, can imagine all the Akashic record and all the other stuff that we have access to that we don't know how to get to yet. That's the far future. Maybe not the near future, but that's certainly the future.
exactly. Yeah, one of the times I was on mushrooms, I saw all the stars connected by a web, and I
Yeah.
saw, and I already knew this, but
Yeah.
I really had the thought of we are literally connected by webs. I mean, every single thing. It was like the flowers were connected to the leaves, and the leaves were connected to the ground, and to my feet, and to the stars, and to everything is all connected. And then a friend of mine, um, who used to be biggest fan of this podcast, and he's now on the other side. He said, "Have you heard of Indra's net?" And that was it's a uh, I think it's a Vedic philosophy about everything being connected, and it sort of all came together. Like, no, I'm not hallucinating. Like, I'm actually seeing what they
Yeah.
were talking about. And I also agree that I mean, if I would, although that would be a really fascinating um, scientific like experiment to do. I would imagine if we were all on mushrooms right now, we would not see the same thing. However, I think add in sort of this tapping into this ability, and I would be really interested to see what happens. So let's talk about what it is when you see the holographic images, because it to me almost reminds me of the Akashic records, the way that you described it, because you've also you could see sacred geometry, I think, would
Yeah.
remote viewing, and sometimes you've remote viewed extraterrestrial beings. And you've been like, I don't even know why I'm tapped into this or why I can see it. They see me, I see them.
Yeah.
It's sort of like this place
Yeah.
where everyone's in there together in a sense. So, yeah, tell me a little bit about what,
Yeah.
yeah, what it goes
Let's,
on.
so there's two, this is what I think. Again, this is well, I shouldn't think, this is my experience. And it's both. It's what I think in my experience. So I think there's two places. One of them is a hidden biosphere, right? Again, that it's here with us, it's next to me now, and that place is where that is equivalent to, how Leeuwenhoek invented the microscope and we could see microorganisms. We couldn't see them until that happened. Now there's a whole science around that. This space that's here is like that. So there will be technology that makes people see it better, that amplify it. That's the first, and there's things, there are non-human intelligences there. There's so many holographic non-human beings I've seen there. It's almost unbelievable. Just like microorganisms, or just like going into the rainforest and seeing things there we haven't seen before. This place contains that stuff. That kind of stuff, whether they're interested in us, that's a whole different story. That's the first place. The second place I call the organic metaverse. That is the Akashic record for me. That is the place that has this intelligence, the sacred geometry, where I can have a exchange of information. Now, make no mistake, I don't know where one begins and whether one ends, but I just knew the engagement with each space is different, right? So for me, those are the two different things. Maybe you could say it's like the atmosphere and the ionosphere. But that's how it works for me. Now, the place where the Akashic record is, that place, it's almost like you have to go through that place to stumble upon that the one thing you're talking about. When I was doing this, when I first learned to do this, I didn't even know what I was doing. I'm just watching one day and I'm traveling through the, the sky, or the, not the sky, the space, and I stumble upon this gray alien spaceship, and they're all standing, and this is holograms. I want to be very clear, it's not 3D people, it's holograms. They're standing around this clear table, or I think it's clear. And I get closer, I look closer, and then I realize they're remote viewing a town in the USA. And the eyes on these gray aliens are following the people. And when when the person left one gray's field of vision, the set of eyes picked up the other one. It's almost, and they were around the table. It's like they needed to work in concert to see this whole thing. So it was almost like they were servers or something. They knew what they were doing, right? But here's what's crazy about, well, that in itself is extraordinary. As I'm watching, I'm getting closer. Two of the gray aliens look at me, and I see them looking at me. I'm like, can they see me? And they start walking towards me, and I jumped out. I'm like, okay, this is weird. This is wild. That is the first time anything like that's happened, and it's even the last time that something so detailed and specific. There's a couple of other things, but that's the most extraordinary one. That's the one I'm like, what is going on? Right? I was
Yeah.
like, holy cow. And the fact that they saw me, what did they see? What do I look like? Is it like this body, but a
Right.
holographic? I have no idea. I can't answer that.
You should have stayed, Tom.
Yeah.
But I can understand why it was jarring. Like, if when they come close, what's gonna happen? It's like in a dream. If I die, am I really gonna die in real life?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's probably pretty shocking. So I understand that you don't go around seeing this stuff everywhere. You actually invite it in. I think you said invite. I don't know if that was, or turn it on. What is it that you
For me, yeah,
mhm.
great question. So for me to see it, I just have to turn my attention. Like if I'm here, if I want to do it now, I'm not going to do it now because it's just weird. I could turn my attention, there'll be something there, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is that there? If it's got my curiosity, I'll hang out with it for a while, and
Yeah.
I'll engage with it. Now, if I do a reading for my business now, when I do these Upsight Vision readings for people, I absolutely you need to give me permission to see what's radiating from your field. Almost it's like eavesdropping, right? Because you need to say, yes, it's okay. Yes, I want you to describe it exactly as I see it. Yes, it may be a little weird and uncomfortable. It's like a dream, but it's a safe space. And I do mean that, because it's between you and I. And we might not even be able to resolve what it is. It's like a dream. You wake up from a dream. Some of them you're like, wow, that was a big deal. I know it's meaningful. Some you're like, okay, I don't want to go back there. These kind of can be the same things. I found like the longer we stay in, there's like more trust built, and more the things near the end sometimes, not all the time, many times are more insightful for the person I'm working with. Now, you probably have the same kind of experience with what you do. Is that
Mhm.
a fair statement? So
Yes.
yeah, that's the inviting in part, and I've started doing that of April of this year, and again, it's just been extraordinary, and I feel so blessed, right? I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't, like I said, I did this for, and I did it without doing anything. I cared about the science and the academic perspective. Once I let that go, and I said, okay, don't know, I shouldn't say I didn't let it go. Once I had the paper done and I've done my part, and there's nothing else with the science until this comes out, I did my normal job, and then last year, at the end of last year, some things happened. I'm like, you know what? Let me just try to see if I can start practicing on people and reading them. And then people are like, wow, how did you know that? How did you know I was, I mean, I'll see somebody, what they just went to the store and bought, right? Because
Yeah.
it's on their mind. I'll see something is going to happen. I'll get an email 2 weeks ago. This just happened to me. Remember when you described that? That just happened in front of me. So there we are connected to this web that you're talking about in ways, and I don't know how to control it. All I can do is see it. I shouldn't say that. You know what I mean when I say control. I can control this part, but not what shows up. I certainly can't control what shows up in your space. And I don't want to influence the stuff that comes from your side unless you ask me to, because you're like you don't feel well. Some people have, and I'm not a holistic healer. However, if you want my energy, by the end we work with that, and
Yeah, I think you
and
can.
help.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was gonna
right,
say
exactly. It's
you
just
can do that.
I haven't done the things most people do to get to that space. So I don't like to make a claim on something that people have spent their whole lives doing that I'm still new at. It's just like, it's
Right.
something.
And I think also, as you've been talking about it, I've been seeing it and imagining it also that as you continue to work with people, you will start to figure out what
Yeah.
it all you're gonna it's just in fact, it's the same thing as mediumship. So we develop it's called a symbol, like a what's the word? It's a symbology. So it's like a spirit dictionary is the word I was looking
Okay.
for.
Okay.
I
Good.
teach it and in my brain. So it's a spirit dictionary. So when I first started giving readings, I didn't have a spirit dictionary yet. But over time, I would learn what each thing meant. It's like if you were a child, this is how we learn language. Nobody taught us English, you and me,
Exactly.
English. We just sort of contextually picked it up. So if I'm reading you and now I know the first time I read someone, I'm like, I'm seeing a red balloon. What could that mean? Could it be a birthday? Could it be this? Over time, every time I said red balloon, I think this is birthday. Yep, it's my birthday today. And then I started to be like, okay, now I know that when I see a red balloon, just a single red balloon, it just means it's somebody's birthday. I'm saying happy birthday to them. And it's always floating up. That's why I'm doing this hand movement.
So is
It's
that a
the
specific thing that's happened to you? Is that something that's
Yeah, it
exactly
is. That's how
you?
I see that spirit wants to wish you a happy birthday, as opposed to they release balloons at my memorial, which I'll see a bunch of different balloons up in the sky.
So I got to jump in here because we have a psychic connection right now.
Yes, yes.
So when I told you about something 2 weeks in the future, the one I usually talk about, it's about a red balloon. The woman was driving, and the red balloon lands on her car. So she emailed me and told me this, and the fact that you said it unrelated to that was no coincidence
It
that I
isn't.
that no.
And this is telepathy.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
something that is fascinating, is that we all have the ability to communicate with each other telepathically. How do I talk with quote unquote dead people? Telepathy. How do we talk with ETs, many of whom do not have mouths because they've evolved out of needing it because they communicate through telepathy. So they don't need mouths, and they've evolved out of having to eat, some of them. So there is a reason for that. And it's because we literally, that's how I know that's how you see what's going on in my energy field.
yeah,
That's how I can tell you. I think you're doing, I mean, you are doing, in a sense, it's perceived in a different way, but
yeah.
you're seeing someone's timeline, perhaps, like, oh, I'm seeing like something in the future. I don't know if it's today, if it's tomorrow, if it's in the past. And my client and I do the same thing. Why am I seeing this? Well, I don't know. And then in a month they reach out and say that thing happened.
Yeah.
Or, oh, that was something that happened when I was 5. I don't always know. All I know is I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
And so in a sense, I perceive things a little bit differently, but in a lot of these interviews, your interviewees have named the the name of the podcast episode is like the man who can see the matrix. And I think that
Mhm.
is what is happening, right? Like that invisible unknown thing that ties this all together, the hologram, the simulation, whatever we want to call it, it consists of something. It's made up of something, right?
Yeah. And I think we are evolved. I think humans are changing to see this because people are coming forward with trauma. Now, well, then think about all the environment, beings, animals mutate because the environment changes, right? So their environment changes, so they mutate to survive the environment. I think that's what is happening to humans because of the pole shifts, climate change, vaccines, all the things, forever chemicals. I go on and on and on and on. We are changing, and our vision is changing too. Remember, the eyes are the most evolved part of the brain. It would make sense that that sense was the one that evolved next to see this. So when people the best part is people that email me and say I don't feel like I'm crazy anymore because I've been seeing these things. My mom told me don't ever tell anyone, all that stuff. So I feel so good that whatever I went through can help somebody not at least have that peace and not be scared about that and thinking they're going crazy. And you know what's really wild, Shannon? If I did not have that psych word, so people go, well, you're crazy. I'm like, time out. I literally know what you're trying to accuse me of because I was that. And guess what? I'm not that now. And I have old people in my life that know I'm not that now. So
Yeah.
I think I had to go there and have to know what it was like to have, you can't say crazy, but unwell, delusional, all those things, because this is not that. This is not that. Maybe that's how I dealt with it. Right. But this is not that. Maybe a filter happened. So in a weird way, especially after 13 years, I'm certainly glad it's behind me. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And if people have asked on podcasts, what would you ever give it up? I'm like, if the answer is no, I wouldn't want to. If I had to go through it again, yes, I would give it up.
Yeah. 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 Because, yeah, I mean, it's not something you would have wanted to put your family
No,
through, I'm sure, if
no,
nothing
no,
else.
no.
If nothing else. And I do feel like I don't know why I wanted to say set off a tripwire. It's like you don't have bipolar disorder, but the drugs that you were on sent you into psychosis.
Sure, exactly.
And so because of that, whatever neurons in your brain were affected and how they were affected, it's I think it just opened I would love to hear what you think. It just basically sort of remove the veil, but it's the same thing that happens to near death experiencers. Once they go to the quote unquote other side, their soul remembers who they are. That's why so many of them come back and now they have these abilities. They
Yeah,
have mediumship abilities. I have chills about that, which means they're saying yes. It's your brain saw into it and now it can't unsee it. And
right.
that's why you still see it. Another near death experiencer I haven't interviewed yet, but he's been sharing his story online, said that he's like, now I always see these rays of light coming off of everything.
Yeah,
And there's no visual disturbance. It's his eyes are fine.
yeah,
He doesn't have brain damage. It
yeah,
is I said, and he asked me about it, and I said, "Well, I think basically your soul now it's like, oh, okay, I know what's really real right now. I'm getting major spirit chills from that. It's so now you can see, you can't unsee it. Once you know,
yeah.
you can't unsee it.
Yeah, and yeah, it's incredible. And to that point, my eyes are fine.
Yeah.
I have my optometrist. I've had him since before this and after. And you know what's wild too? Another wild thing is that I said, hey, when I came back, I'm like, so by the way, I came out of a mental health crisis and I can do this. He told me, because he's been an optometrist, he's, about my age now. He's like, listen, I've had a handful of people come forward to say they can do this, just like you can.
Oh
But
wow.
something comes up that scares them, and because it can be scary if you see something. I've seen anything a human being can do to another. So this is not all rays and sunshine. There's some horrible things there, but you don't have to stay in it. Just look out. You're like, why is that coming? Where is it coming from? But he said they get scared and they just totally ignore it and they just completely do whatever else they have to do to not see it. So they turn it off and they shut it down. um and again, the idea that and everyone can do it, like everybody can sing, but not everyone is Adele or Frank Sinatra. Like, everyone can sing, but if you practice, right, you get better at it. This is the same idea. And if we ever make it more acceptable, if we do, there will be so advances, communication, intelligence, the world connecting and opening up. It will make the world a better place. I don't care what they say. People are said, oh, the demons are going to come in. I've heard that so many times. I'm like, you know what? They're not. And it's like a moth's from my experience. You know how moths have the shape of a snake on their back, so birds won't eat them. These things that present like that, they fall apart and they're actually something else. So in a weird way, it's almost like they present like that to humans. So we don't go in there because they are as fragile as moths, but they want us to stay out. Believe it or not, that's a very specific thing that I've seen many, many times. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
yeah, that totally makes sense. That makes so much sense.
Okay.
It's almost like we're not we can't handle the truth kind of
Yeah,
thing. Like
yeah.
we're not quite as humanity is not quite ready. Individuals are. I think there are many people waking up to this. In fact, I was a skeptic most of my life. I was at points an atheist, at points agnostic. I struggled with addiction, depression as well. And I just didn't see how any of that could be possible, which is why the podcast is called Magic is Real. Because once I found out that, no,
Yeah.
it feels so fantastical. And once
Yeah.
I found out like this is real, it changed everything. And it does not mean that there's still not horrible, horrible things happening in the world that are real. But I want to know too, when you see all of these things, right? And you don't have control over what you're seeing into. So, do you think that you're seeing, because you actually have said some of them you don't even know if they're real. So,
Yeah.
do you think they're potentials?
So
yeah,
So that's where the fun begins. So think about it like this. If I'm doing a reading for you and whatever's coming through, let's say it was an alien or a butterfly, right? Let's say it was coming through and I knew I was locked into you and doing a reading. That's one thing. I know that's coming from you. Okay, so that's your imagination or the back of your brain or some part of your unconscious. The one that's over here that's not connected to anybody, right? Because there's people around, there's no one near here. I have no idea where that's coming from. So it could be coming from you. It's certainly possible because we are absolutely connected now, even though I haven't asked about that, just our conversation. But it could be coming some down the hall, or it can be coming from someplace else completely. Like again, I have no idea where. Um, but the wild part about that is the engagement, right? Anything that floats by, and that's the best way to say it, I can tune into. It's not like some of the things I can tune into and some of them I can't. The fact that it's in my field of vision means, or with the field, well, it is a field of vision. It means it's okay or whatever to tune into it. Now, all of those things don't stay. So let's say there's a gray alien and a spaceship, right? If I tune on the spaceship and I think, wow, is that spaceship can I turn that spaceship red? Something specific like that. That gray aliens over here may walk out or go out of the field. So, right? So there's both. So
yeah,
it's, and then it could be a gray alien that I exchange with. Now, here's the thing. If it is a gray alien, right, or something like that, there's been non-human intelligence grays that have definitely telepathy put stuff in my head. There's no doubt. I have had a thought while they were there. I have no idea where it's come from. So I've deduced it must be coming from them. Now, if there's a gray alien hologram, I don't think that is in fact the gray alien, right? I don't know what it is I'm exchanging with. It doesn't feel like I'm talking to that gray alien, if that makes sense. It's just this essence of it, or it's some part of it, or it's somebody else's thought. I don't know. Maybe it was there. It's hard to articulate because you know why? Because so many things happen. Just like traveling through our real world, so many different things happen. It's hard to pin down. Have a taxonomy, all this. That's why the more people that do it, the more people we can sure certain things are very specific. Certain things happen. The more people that way to do it, the more we can start making, what did you call it? A spiritual directory?
oh, yeah, as symbol.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
something that we should,
a spirit dictionary. I don't know
okay,
why I'm
yeah.
forgetting that word. It's called a spirit dictionary.
So no, that's good. And I have a free PDF if anybody wants it called the 8 stages of Upsight Vision. Okay, these are the stages I went through, not in order, but to get where I am. Right? These are all the stages that I went through to have the ability to the extent that I do. Uh, and people have downloaded the PDF and said, "Well, I'm at stage 3." They're like, "Well, I'm at stage 6. I can see these holograms, but I can't change them with a thought." So there's all different levels of this. And again, the more people that do it, that's my PDF. But again, if we have 100 people doing it, it'll multiply, it'll multiply. The knowledge in this space, it's like tapping a mine. It's like the beginning of a mine. Literally, it's like the beginning of a mine with all the knowledge, not gold and silver, but knowledge.
That's why it's so fascinating, exciting to me because
Yeah,
I feel
me
like
too.
we're really on the precipice of something bigger that surpasses technology.
So,
And yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm gonna make a prediction too. When this paper comes out, and it's coming out soon, if it gets picked up by the mainstream media, right? Not only, I mean, I hope the mainstream traditional scientific media, right?
Mhm.
If it gets picked up by then, more attention will come to the space and people will be like, wow, that's what I've been seeing. Wow, that's what I've been seeing. And then more, they'll come forward and say, let's do the next series of tests, whatever. Instead of doing one case study, we do a group of us, something
Yeah.
like that. I feel, and by the way, my point is, I feel like that's going to happen. I feel like that is what I know. You know what I mean? I know it's going to happen. I don't know how I know it. I just know it.
Yeah. But that's because of your claircognizance.
You're right. Exactly.
That's how you know it. And uh oh yeah, so you've explained this before and I when okay, so when you tune into it, I was you said today that it is outside of you. So you are seeing it, but then in another interview I thought you said it was more like
It's
in
both.
your
No, it's
mind.
both.
So
So
is
no,
it
no.
okay?
Well, let's think about that. So you and I are talking. I look over there and I see a palm tree. So
Yeah.
if I engage with it, right now, that's outside of me because it's in front of me, just like I'm hearing your voice. Now I can participate into it. Now I can think, turn that palm tree into an oak tree, right? So
Right.
now that's the whole idea of this plasma intelligence or this intelligent field that knows it's communicating with Tom, the person, and there's an exchange of knowledge. That's this part that is next
Right.
level. That is next level.
And that is it lines up with again, um is it this the theory of a particle when observed changes
Exactly.
form, right? But also, I've had near death experiencers explain that on the other side, they can just think something and it just happens. To some degree, we can do that in our dreams, or at least I have been able to, but sometimes it's murky. Like sometimes I'll think, oh,
Oh
I'm in a lucid dream. I could just make a million cupcakes and just eat them all. Like that's kind of a nerdy thing I do in my dreams. When I realize I'm lucid dreaming, I'm like, I could just eat like 1,000 cupcakes. It doesn't even matter. And so, but it's more for me. It's a little more difficult. It's like, oh, I want to see someone specific, and then it's harder. But also, I want to know what you think about the concept of manifestation, because if we can, because I feel like you're seeing how consciousness can
yeah.
change our reality. Can it change our reality in this 3D world simply by
So
imagination or thought?
if my life is an example of this manifestation that I have a knowing, then the answer is yes,
Yeah.
right? When I came out of this, my first couple of years, I went to see a traditional coach, right? A business coach. And I was like, listen, I know you, and I'm a businessman. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be your wildest client ever, but this is what I can do. And we put together this plan, all the things that I wanted to do, right? I haven't done them all. Let's say there was 8 of them. I've checked all 5 of them. They've happened. And it was not, um, he asked, what kind of things do you want to do? I'm like, well, I know I'm going to do this. It was a knowing. Well, this is going to happen. I've already seen this. And we checked them
Mhm.
all off. So everyone is slow, is not, maybe not as fast. And I don't even think I cared how fast it was. Actually, that's not true. No, that's not true. In the beginning, especially, I wanted things faster because I wanted my life to get better. But here's the beautiful thing about the universe. If it had happened then, if it's something had happened 2 years before when I thought I wanted to happen, it would not be as extraordinary as it happening 2 years after.
Mm,
Because it was nurtured and grew, by the time the flowered, that's really when it was supposed to flower. And the longer I've been doing this, more I'm realizing, patience, Tom, it's coming, you know?
yeah.
So the answer is yes. As long as there is emotion and true belief that it's going to happen, it's not a wish. It's an internal knowing, and your body knows it, right? You're like, and you're like, okay, you don't, you say, how do I know it? Normal human nature is like, how do I know this? And then you just lean into it. And the more things that happen, and the more you trust, and the more you lean into, I'm going to use a word, the synchronistic elements to it. That's the gold for me. Synchronicity is a gift because if something synchronistic happens and I have a positive feeling around it, and I tell this with people I work with, that means the universe is more than likely nudging you to jump in that direction and with a positive result. If you have a synchronistic, I don't actually, well, I did my one of the first ones, synchronistic and it's bad, maybe just sit on it longer, or if you're pushing it, or maybe go in another direction, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't think I don't even know if that's a thing. I know a synchronistic thing happened when I put it in my book, and it was so terrible at the time because it was like the world was making fun of me. It was like a scene was staged by a director, and all the events on the song I was listening to were happening in front of me, and I couldn't realize how that could happen. We're talking 35 seconds, like I was in a music video, right? And it was just so bizarre, and I broke down, and it crushed me because I thought the universe was mocking me and the government satellites were there. Just looking back now, the universe was saying, no, God was saying, I've got you. This is something you're taking care of. The opposite of what I thought while I was delusional and on drugs. I was on drugs at the time. And it happens all the time without that, not, without all the other things. And the positive feeling, and I lean to that direction, absolutely happen. Synchronistic events happen a lot. Not every day, not every month, but every couple of months, something like I know the universe is, I just feel and I feel it. So I make the decision because it happens. No, I shouldn't say it. The synchronicity happens and I feel what to do because of that, because an emotion follows it.
Right. I know sometimes I don't know how much I'm really into manifestation, the concept of manifestation, and as quantum physics pertains to that. And then I also, as a spiritual person, understand there's sort of two components. And sometimes I wonder, did I manifest this or did I already see it in my timeline? We do have free will.
Oh,
But then sometimes I'm like, everything panned out the way that I said I wanted it to, but in a very specific, like in such a specific way that it was like changed the trajectory of my life. And an example of that is when I was married forever ago, 25 years ago. I remember we were like, well, I guess we're married now, and that's that. Like life is just kind of boring now. And we went out one night to see a friend play at a music club, and there were all these people that knew each other that were there to see the musician, and they're all like hugging, and I said, I want that. And he said, well, that's what happens in high school and college. We're adults now. We don't have that kind of group of friends and um, community. That was just the belief. And after we divorced, the synchronicities that led me to where I am now, which started with a guy outside Whole Foods saying, hey, I'm working for Greenpeace. Can you sign this petition? And then he's like, here's my album if you want to come to a show. And then I went to a show and he's like, hey, I work the door at a music club. Do you want to work the door for me? And then I ended up working the door at a music club and eventually ran the music club, managed the music club, became the music booker. Now my whole life is in tonight, where I'm going after this hotel cafe. My friends are playing the Rescues. I'm going into a room where I will probably know. I mean, I don't want to say tonight 100 people, but there will be
yeah.
at least 20 people, 30 people that I know because that became my whole life.
Wow.
And it was like, did I want that and manifest it, or was it already part of my timeline?
Yeah.
Um,
So what's
it's
the
like,
difference
yeah,
though? I know, no, everything you're
right.
saying,
What's the difference? Yeah,
what I don't know. To me, that you knew it was going to happen. So you said it because it was your timeline. So
yeah,
you said the things and made the things happen. That's great. That was well told. I know, I feel
yeah.
every piece of that made sense to me. And it's wild how you didn't know while you're going through it. Now that you can look back, you're like, oh, I see every single dot. Right? I
Oh,
see every
yeah,
single connection. And there's no coincidences. Everything is connected. Now, I don't like everything happens for a reason because that's dismissive of some horrible.
yeah. I agree.
Everything's connected is a little bit well, maybe not softer, but but it is. Everything is connected.
Yeah.
You know.
Everything is
And,
connected. And even just when I was 11, I had posters of Marilyn Monroe, and Hollywood sign and all, and I lived in Connecticut. And then I went to college, and my parents announced that they were moving to LA. No, no, my dad took me when I was 11 to Universal Studios for my birthday, or maybe I was 13. And we ate at this place called Taro Sushi. It was a really memorable, lovely trip. And then cut to in the future, my dad's like, we're moving to California. And so I ended up after my divorce looking for an apartment. I was so broke. I'm like, what can I afford? And I just picked this random place that I could afford. And the guy was like, listen, I feel for you. You're going through a divorce. I'm going to give this to you for an affordable rate. That apartment was right across from Taro, like right where Taro Sushi is, right where the Sheridan is, where we stayed, right. And it turns out like I was supposed to be here.
Yeah,
Like
it was
my whole
calling.
life unfolded. And the reason I bring up the second story is just to show that in both of those circumstances, I didn't seek it out. It was somebody was like, here's a music club job. And here is, we're moving to LA or we're moving to California. And
Yeah.
it's like my whole childhood, I would just think about LA. And like, it wasn't as if I made plans to move there. It just kind of happened because and so I wonder sometimes, did I manifest that or was it already going to happen and my soul knew it?
Yeah, that's great. That's wow.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a couple of things that you trigger a thought of
Yeah,
mine.
please.
So I do readings for people, right? And there's sometimes someone will come through that's skeptical, which is great. If you come through, well, it's not great. It's silly. Don't do it if you're skeptical.
Yeah.
But it's happened, and I'm like, all because you're skeptical, I'm still going to see something. So
Yep.
that's definitely going to happen. Now, how you interact with me in between the readings, they feel like, well, this is nonsense. You're not going to get anything out of it because you're
Yep.
missing every element of it. Okay, so it's silly. It's not going to not happen because I'm skeptical. You're not going to receive what could be coming in if you're skeptical. Okay, that's one piece that happens. Now here's something that's really kind of funny, and I tell this tale without getting specific. So. Did a reading for a guy, and he was signed up, was enthusiastic. As we're going through it, one of the first things I see is and just so know he's an actor. It's important. So one of the first things I see, and I don't know this, just let's be clear on that. I don't know this at all. First thing I see is this Star Trek thing coming up and a whole bunch of things with Star Trek and right. And he's like, huh, that doesn't make any sense. So I get reading, and then I read something else, and then we get to the end. It's like this doesn't make sense. I said, listen, I'm like, what do you do? He's like, I'm an actor. I'm like, well, maybe you're gonna get invited to a Star Trek or something. He's like, oh, wait a minute. I actually had an audition there. I couldn't believe that he didn't remember that.
Yeah.
Here's why. Because he didn't want it. He
Right.
didn't want it. So he didn't see how it showed up. And because he didn't want the part either that he was offered for. He just didn't want it. So he dismissed it. And then there was another thing that I read in there that was part of his career that he just wasn't like he wasn't like tuned into it because like many of us, he had an idea and an expectation that he wanted. He was so tied to it that he wasn't open to what was there and how he could see maybe there were some other things coming through to pay attention to. So the point is letting go and
Mhm.
just receiving it is so much helpful. And I say this with everything, but certainly when you're working with somebody like you or me, and just you don't have to do anything with it.
Yeah.
But listen, you after it's done, you're like, okay, just do it with a little bit of ease because the ease, physical ease and the body ease and stuff like that was coming in. There may be something, that you're gonna get that just be okay with it. So I said a couple things there. I jumped around a little bit, but I think you get my point about the skepticism and then really thinking you have an idea of one thing, but and that's the other thing, if you work with somebody, right? If you're open to, hey, what about this? And by the way, when he saw that was there and these other two things, by the time we were done with the whole thing, he was way more open to it. He's like, okay, now this is starting to make sense. And he was like, wow, okay. Well, he was like, wow, this is really cool. Another wild thing, then I'll stop about this one. I could feel his skepticism, right? And there were two different types. The one guy that wasn't going anywhere, and this one, I could feel his resolve breaking, or I could feel his resistance breaking, and he's like, "Oh, okay, this kind of makes sense." So I don't know. It's crazy how quantum entanglement, 1,000 miles away, 3,000, I feel it, and I really do. And the person I'm working with feels it too. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yeah, quantum entanglement. Can you just speak to that? I know we'll kind of wrap up soon, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts
Well,
in terms of yeah,
I think that's what I'm doing, right? I think that if you sit there and say, "Well, how are you doing it with somebody farther?" I don't know. Come on, I don't know.
yeah.
No, there's no technology. I think there's a quantum element to it. Now, we haven't talked about this at all, and we can kind of wrap up on this. Even though I don't see, I can step outside of anything and see at the quantum level. So I see these, or I don't know if this is what it looks like. I see the DNA strand interacting with these other elements that don't exist. So if you showed what I see from a DNA and these elements interacting with it to a geneticist, they would say that, well, this is not you. This is you don't see this through electron microscope. What is this nonsense? And I would tell you, it's another part of our biosphere that's interacting with the DNA, and I can see it because of my vision. There's
Mhm.
another part of I see the rainbow different than we typically do. We see double rainbows on top of each other, one brighter in the bottom coming towards us, red, white, and yet, the colors going towards us, and the other one lighter on the top, lighter on the top, but they're sitting on top of each other. When I see them, the one funnel is coming towards us, and the other one is a funnel going away. Now that doesn't exist. That is an illusion, just like what you see is an illusion. So there's something interacting, this plasma level, this quantum level, that makes whatever I'm seeing it. No, it shows that space look like this through that lens, and I think it's a quantum lens, is what I'm getting at.
Oh, yeah, that's I love yeah, that
There's so
clicked
many
for
things
me.
I see interacting with our 3D space, not just overlay or whatever words, but you can see it interacting with it. And it all seems quantum, like again, another frequency. Well, I don't know. I speculate all day long. I've done it for 13 years.
I love that. That clicked for me when you
Yeah.
said that. It's like what did you say? Quantum
It's
uh
quantum vision, quantum
vision,
lens.
quantum vision.
Okay, yeah.
That
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
yeah, it's like you have on these other kinds of glasses.
Yeah,
They're like 3D glasses, but even more. And
yeah.
then you're actually seeing how it all interacts and interfaces how the web works in a way. And even though you don't even know what it means.
No, I
And
just
I
see it
don't think,
happening. Right, exactly. I just
yeah,
see it happening and I can describe it to anybody. And if there was somebody that was a physicist that was really interested in that, I could tell them exactly what I see. And maybe that would give them some insights to the
yeah,
knowledge they have from being doctorate or PhD in physics, whatever. Right? I'm seeing something, and if they could put two and two together, maybe there's something to look at there.
that's so fascinating. I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, my dad has always been pretty secular, I would say, and just very logical businessman kind of. And now he believes that there's something happening because he's seen me do it.
Yeah.
And he said, "But how are you doing that?"
Yeah, good.
And I said, I can't say I know exactly. Yeah, I know. I was happy that
You're doing
I said, I don't, I mean, I do know how I'm doing it, but I also don't know how I'm doing it. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just doing it. And it's because it's our nature, is all I can say. It's like, because the things we're talking about are not, they are called paranormal and supernatural, but they're very normal and natural. We just have learned not, we've just been
exactly.
indoctrinated out of using these abilities.
Yeah,
And yours is extraordinary because it probably it does take a certain brain structure, which is why I think also there are a lot of mediums. I don't know what this is too. For example, like lots of Italians, if you look at like John Edward, Kim Russo, Long Island Medium, and the thing is they're Catholic, so that would you would think that would be like against their religion.
yeah.
But if
I
you
hadn't thought
Matt
about that.
Frazier, like if you think about it, I think he's Italian. It's like, wait a minute. So what is it about Italian people's brain structure and how they say, "Oh, my mom was a medium, my grandma was a medium." I do think that it is. So I'm getting chills about it.
Yeah,
It can be random, but
yeah,
also I think that there is something to the brain structure. And I just know that I am more highly sensitive than your average.
yeah,
And it's just that's an inherited trait.
yeah.
And in the book, The Highly Sensitive Person, the author talks about how 15% of the population are highly sensitive people. You would qualify. And there's not something wrong with us. We were the 15% of the herd that were the watchers to protect. So our job, our survival instinct, we're wired differently. So we're not the
Mm,
ones that fight off the beasts. We're the one that can hear every noise. And
yeah,
we have eyes in the back of our head. So we would be able to go, there's a lion in the bush, and then warn everybody else. So that
yeah,
can make living life really difficult at times because there's a lot of anxiety that
yeah,
I've struggled with personally. And I know a lot of other empaths do. And yet I love being this way.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
We'll learn how to
yeah.
live. Yeah, it's good. That's good. I like that. I haven't thought about that.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
It's here, you're gonna love this. And we will finish up on this, okay? So
Yeah.
Dean Radin just did a speaking gig about psi abilities. And what they found out, there's some kind of test. I'm trying to get this right. But believe it or not, people that are Christians have less of this than other people because maybe it was frowned upon during the Spanish Inquisition and they all died out
Yep.
except for the ones that left southern Italy or Spain, you know what I mean, Europe, and then came to here, like the Italians that you're talking about. Maybe they all came here before then and they're settling, or they left out of Spain and they were in hiding or something like that. Because when he said that, I was skeptical, right? But there's a gene that many people that come in there Christians have that are not psi ability related. Now, this is the first I've heard of it. Um, and what you're saying and from what I've experienced too and seen with people, it goes against it. So I think there's something there. I don't know. There's something there that should be explored and studied for sure.
There.
Because like you said, those people do have the abilities. And I'm Catholic. I mean, I'm not Italian, but I'm Catholic. So
Yeah. And my grandmother was from Spain. My mother, who I get these abilities from, I believe she's half Spanish also. So who knows? It's a very interesting. And I love what this conversation brought up, which is how does brain structure factor into our ability to perceive um, spiritual elements, which are really just there. That's what we call our sixth sense, but we all have it. We all have it. It's just some people are more sensitive to it than others. And some people just have more logical brains. Some people are just not designed this way. But I do think everyone can learn it if they are open minded. And so this brings up, I'm so excited and I thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we part in terms of your book, your services? We're going to have your, website to reach you and all that stuff. But anything else you want to share about anything that
look,
you're
if you
into?
no, thank you. If you my book about my 1 year just goes to Hollywood, a memoir of madness. If you've got somebody going through something, this might give you, if I can get through this, other people can. So it's on Amazon. The free PDF, 8 stages of Upsight Vision. If you think you have it, you can get that for free on the website, and you'll be on an email list that talks about Upsight when I talk about the research and stuff like that. But I also talk about specials I might have around my services of doing readings for people. There's a FAQ section if you're interested in that. You can check out the website and see somebody describe what it's like to have the readings done. But it's something that it may resonate with some people. And this is what I've been telling people. You can't sell it on being fun, but it is fun.
I
Right?
know. It
It's fun.
really, it is. It's so cool. It's really cool. And can you just say the name of your website for those who, yeah.
Yeah, I sure can. It's tom-matte.com.
Thank you, Tom, Matt. It has been such a pleasure, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you.
Me
This
too.
has been an incredible conversation, and I hope to see you at an IONS conference soon.
Yeah, for
If
sure.
yeah, so thank you again for your time. Really look forward to seeing what you're up to next.
Yeah, thank you. This was a pleasure.
My
Bye-bye.
pleasure too.